Dear candidates, you are most welcome to yet another session. This time we are looking at the European explorers. We have been looking at traders. We are now shifting to explorers. So European explorers in Africa, we first of all need to know the definition. Who is an explorer? By definition here I've said that an explorer is a person who travels to new areas in order to find information about them, to find more about those areas. These people came from different countries such as Britain, France, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Italy, Poland, Bulgaria, Denmark, mention them. There were so many countries where these people came from. So Europeans who came to Africa were of different groups. And I have highlighted here the order of their coming. To start with, we had the explorers who were geographers who could move from one place to another searching for information. We had the missionaries whose aim you already know. We had the traders whom we have already discussed. Then we had the colonialists or administrators. Then the last group was that of the settlers. Boys and girls, we are saying that it is important for us to know that Europeans had referred Africa to as a darker continent, simply because little or nothing was known about the interior of Africa. And there were reasons simply that made these people to take long to come and enter into the interior of Africa. One, they feared hostile tribes they had heard of. They also feared dangerous wild animals. Then, due to the hot deserts in the interior of Africa, we have both the marine and the continental desert. Then, presence of thick forests that made movements difficult. Absence of a clear route to the interior of Africa. These are some of the key points that made these people take long to enter or to penetrate Africa. Then the reason is, they had reasons for coming. Among others was to find the source of the Nile, because they had heard of the longest river in the world. So they had to find its source. So it interested them, encouraged them to come and find the source. Two, to study the geography of Africa. To study the geography of Africa. To find trade opportunities in Africa. To open up the way for the coming of these missionaries. Not only that, to find suitable places for establishing their naval bases. So these are some of the reasons. There are very many, but I have highlighted a few for the case of our lesson tonight. So we are also saying that this was the general reason for the coming of these people. Now, to begin with, the Portuguese explorers, aware that they were from Europe. These came from Portugal. The capital city of Portugal is Lisbon. You remember that information we had in P6, whereby we talked about the Portuguese, where we talked about this prince, Henry the Navigator, who started a school of sailors at Porto Segres. So they had he had the interest of finding the sea route to India, aware that on the mainland of Africa it would have been very easy for people to cross from Portugal through Mediterranean Sea, then African mainland, then through Red Sea, then you continue to the other side. But because of the serious empire of the Ottoman Empire that was imposing high taxes, they had to force the movement from Europe via West Africa, South Africa, then East Africa. So We are saying that they wanted to find the sea route to India, and examples of Portuguese navigators to Africa included Pedro da Colvilla, we had Bartholomew Dias, Vasco da Gama, Denis Dias. Each of these had a contribution. And these were from Prince Henry the Navigator's school. These people could be trained on drawing maps, on navigation, compass reading, to mention but a few. I'm talking about navigation. Who is a navigator? We are saying that a navigator is a person who sails along a water body. A water body can be a river, an ocean, a lake, or a sea. So the reason is for the coming of these Portuguese, among others, we are saying that they came to find the sea route to India, which was the major one. 2, there was a need to control the coastal trade. When they came to the coast of East Africa, they discovered a flourishing trade, which encouraged them to come and establish themselves on the East African coast. Then there was need to create a resting base for their sailors, all the way from Portugal via West Africa, South Africa, then coming to the east coast of East Africa, so that they could rest from there on their way to India. Then there was need to spread Christianity. Aware that the Portuguese were Christians, they had to come and spread Christianity. Aware that the east coast of Africa had already been influenced by the Arabs who were Muslims. Then point number E, we are saying that there was a need to break the Muslim domination, as already have explained. When we look at this, when they came, there were factors that led to the success of Portuguese at the east coast of Africa. 1, these people had superior weapons, or they had stronger weapons. Not only that, they had well-trained soldiers who could fight the Africans, the Arabs, and defeat them. They also had stronger leaders. Then the coastal towns were not united. Aware that when we discussed in the previous lesson, we said that the Zengi Empire was not an empire, simply because it had no single leader. Each state had its own sultan. So these people were not united. So when, for example, when Vasco da Gama came at Port Mombasa, the Sultan of Mombasa never welcomed him, simply because he was a Christian. So he decided to proceed to Malindi, where he was warmly welcomed by the Sultan of Malindi, aware that the Sultan of Malindi was at the loggerhead with that of Mombasa. And he even gave him a guide who was called Ahmed bin Majid, who directed them to India. So when he was warmly welcomed, they shared with Vasco da Gama, and this encouraged Vasco da Gama to give him support to fight the Sultan of Mombasa. That is why I was putting this point that the coastal towns weren't united. I know we had the declines and whatever. More information is in the workbook. You need to read and make it a point that you pick the information there. Our activity page is page 69. More shall be discussed, but I'm encouraging you, please continue with the spirit of reading. Thank you very much.